to UFC 300. Let me pull this shit up.
Here we go.
Boom.
What a great card.
The odds written down. Fucking penis.
What a very uninspired poster, but what a great card.
Great card. It did turn into a great card. And I know that UFC 298 and 299 were both fucking phenomenal cards.
Yes.
Which in some senses, it seemed to, at least earlier on, take some shine away from 300. Of like, why are they stacking these cards? They should save this all for 300. But there's enough to go around, man, to these different pay-per-view cards. And this is a fucking stacked card as well.
These fight nights around here have been pretty fucking weak because they've been saving all the fights for 299 and 300. But aside from that, I'll take it to get these dope cards.
Yeah.
Where do we begin? Want to start at the very bottom? The very beginning?
Right at the bottom.
We kind of have to. Kind of have to. When your fucking opening fight of the night starts with former UFC flyweight champion Deiveson Figueiredo taking on former UFC bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt. And still, for this essence of time, for the sake of time, as much as these guys deserve like a full spiel intro, for those who are in the know, they know who these guys are. So, Mark started off. Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Cody Garbrandt. Give us your take and the odds and your pick.
All right, boys. Here we go. UFC 300. Already it's absurd. This is the first fight. Okay. Figueiredo's the favorite. He's minus 310. Cody Garbrandt is plus 250. Cody's 3 inches taller, but Deiveson will actually have a 2.5 inch reach advantage. We were supposed to get this one a while back with Cody dropping down to flyweight to actually challenge Figgy back when he was the champion at 125. So now we get it up at 135, which is pretty cool. I honestly think Cody's pretty live in this fight. I don't know if I'm losing it a little bit, but his offense hasn't slipped. He's still a huge threat. It's just his chin that fails him. And if he can avoid the kill shot, I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to steal this thing in a way that no one's really given him a chance to. I think he's going to make Figgy go first, and Figgy can be a little straightforward at times in his attack in a way that I think Cody can slip and rip. I think Cody's going to be plenty fast. He might even be the faster of the two of them. We're going to find that out, but Cody's fucking lightning. His power is still huge. It's going to easily be the biggest power that Figgy has ever stood across from, and it's really not even close. Think about the dudes he's fought at flyweight. There's no one even comparable. And then his bantamweight fight was Rob Font, who's not close to the power of a Cody Garbrandt. So I'm extremely tempted. I think there's a lot of reasons Cody Garbrandt is live. Now, of course, can Figgy put him out? Yes. Can he control range like he did against Rob Font and win a smart fight in and out? Yes. Can he out-wrestle Cody? I'm not 100% sure, but maybe. Cody's wrestling has looked pretty good lately. But bottom line is there's a lot of ways that Figgy could conceivably win this fight, and he's obviously the smart pick. But I don't know what's making me say this. I don't know if it's just that it's like Cody used to be this star, and now here he is back on UFC 300, and it's this famous card. I just have this weird vibe that all of a sudden Cody Garbrandt is about to matter again. So I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt by UD.
Wow, very interesting. Omar, I want to hear your take.
It's not that. Not that.
Sorry, Mark.
I'm sorry. I and no shade to Brian Kelleher, but I can't use the performance that he had against Brian Kelleher, a recovering, recently spinal injured, surgeried man, and Cody Garbrandt knocking him out as the resurgence of Cody Garbrandt. And against a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo, Cody Garbrandt has changed his style for me a little too much in his approach to trying not to get knocked out that I don't see against a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo, who is of the caliber that he is, that won't happen in this fight. I think he's going to be very tentative. I think he's not going to want to get knocked out, especially after he gets some hands put on him in the very beginning, because Figueiredo is known for starting quickly and putting paws on people. And I just don't think Garbrandt's going to deal with it well. I really don't. I think he goes down. I think he goes down in the second. I go with Figueiredo.
Okay. I'm with Omar on this one, Mark. As much as I like your take.
I fully expected to be alone.
I mean, obviously now that Figueiredo's has moved up, it's intriguing, how he's going to deal with these guys at a higher weight class. But I also got to believe that he's going to be a really natural bantamweight because, man, 25. He was one of the scariest guys we've ever seen cutting weight.
Yep.
So, yeah. I'll go with Figueiredo. I'm going to go with Figueiredo by knockout. I'll say he knocks him out. I'll say in the second round. You think Cody's going to be patient, Mark?
I think he's going to make Figgy go first. I could be going to
make Figgy go first.
Yeah. I think he's going to play a counter game. I could even see him try to wrestle, dude. Not in the first, but like as it goes on.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I mean, let's be clear. If my life was on the line for this pick, I would be taking Figgy. Mm-hmm. But I'm intrigued enough for the sake of making fun picks on this show that I am comfortable throwing out a Garbrandt pick.
Okay, moving on up. Bobby Green taking on Jim Miller. I'm sure there's some kind of stat that Jim Miller is like the winningest fighter in UFC history at this point. So there's stats like that on Jim Miller now.
Oh yeah.
Omar, start this one off. Give us your take of Bobby King Green taking on Jim fucking Miller.
I mean, this is a beautiful fight for an event such as UFC 300. Jim Miller, obviously having been to UFC 100, 200, and now 300, there's a little bit of a story there to it, right? Did he say he was going to retire? Is this like officially going to be his last fight, or no? We're just going.
Not that I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Could be a nice storybook ending if he wins. I doubt he would want to go out on a loss, UFC 300 or not. But dude, either way, man, from a technical standpoint,
fucking rankings, he may not want to leave.
Maybe not. Bobby Green, though, is not to be trifled with by anybody. One wrong move, and Bobby Green can definitely put your lights out. I don't really care who you are. The problem with Bobby Green, I think, has always been his inconsistencies and his propensity to play around in there just a little too much. Whether the risk is high or the risk is low, Bobby Green's always in there trying to have some fun. Sometimes he pays for it. Sometimes he doesn't. Usually we're all having a great time watching him, so I don't think there's a lot of complaints in either direction. But if he's trying to get through this fight, man, he's going to have to be on his P's and Q's because Jim Miller is probably one of the best well-rounded guys that you're going to end up facing in your career. He's fantastic on the feet. He's fantastic on the ground. He's fantastic in the clinch. There's not really a ton of holes in there. Frankly, the only way you're going to beat Jim Miller is if you're just straight up better than Jim Miller. And we're going to need to find out whether Bobby's on that level. I love me a Bobby Green. Bobby Green's a straight OG, but Jim Miller is a difficult dude for me to pick against, man. And I just don't know if Bobby Green is better than Jim Miller. I'm going to go with Jim Miller here. I think he chokes him out in the third round.
You think who chokes out who?
Jim Miller, rear naked choke against Bobby Green, third round.
Jim Miller chokes out Bobby Green in the third round. I'll go next on this one because I want to guess the odds. This is a feel one for me because both these guys are getting up there in age, especially Jim Miller. And you wonder how long Jim Miller's going to go until the wheels fall off. But he has looked damn good as of late. He has won 5 of his last 6 fights. His only loss in that stretch was a decision to Alexander Hernandez. That being said, I believe each of those wins were also finishes. Let's see. Knockout, sub. Yep. All of them were finishes. So he has looked great. That being said, I'm going to go with Bobby Green on this one, having just made such a strong case for Jim Miller, who's been fighting so well. But Bobby Green is a guy who, when Bobby Green is on, he looks like he could beat almost anybody at lightweight. So I'm thinking for UFC 300, Bobby Green's a big fight kind of a guy to me, and I think he's going to step up for this event. Jim Miller, I don't expect him to lie down to anybody, but I see Bobby Green knocking him out and giving Jim Miller a bit of this heat check at this stage in his career. Give me Bobby Green by knockout round 3. Okay, Mark.
Did you want to guess the odds? Because you never did.
I'm going to guess that, not what the odds are exactly, but I'm going to guess that that Jim Miller is the favorite. Because he's been on such a tear. I'm wrong.
Really?
Bobby Green is minus 185. Jim Miller is plus 150.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 inches of height for Bobby. The reach is the same. I think Omar said this already, but I love that they went ahead and put Jim Miller on this card. The whole UFC 100, 200, 300 thing is just unreal. And yeah, it's a winnable fight for him too. Like, he could have an awesome moment here. He's going to rip Bobby's legs, you would imagine, try to limit his movement, eventually try to drag him down where he has a significant BJJ advantage. But all in all, I got to go Bobby Green. He's so much faster and cleaner, and I'm just not sure if I see Jim overcoming that. I think he'll have a hard time with Bobby's movement. He'll try to slow him down with the leg kicks, like I said. I'm sure that'll be part of the game plan, but I trust Bobby to get this done. And his takedown defense is pretty solid, generally speaking. He is coming off an inexplicably brutal knockout not that long ago, which gives me a little bit of pause in taking him here. But I'm going to go with it. I think he can make Jim fight his fight more than Jim can make Bobby fight his. So I will go Bobby Green UD.
Okay. All right, moving up to the women's strawweight division. Jessica Andrade taking on Marina Rodriguez. Brazil versus Brazil. Jessica Andrade, of course, the former UFC champ. Marina Rodriguez, nobody's chump. Let's go. Mark, keep going and give us your take between Andrade and Rodriguez.
I didn't have these odds written. I'm just punching them in right now. I'm actually surprised by these odds. I thought the favorite and underdog were going to be flipped, but it is Andrade who is the slight favorite. She's minus 135. Marina is plus 115, so nearly a pick'em fight. 5 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Marina, so she will be much taller and longer. And yeah, I'm not surprised by the odds because this is a really tough fight to call. In the end, I think it's probably one that may boil down to volume versus impact, the volume being on Marina's side and the impact being on Jessica's. Not that Marina can't hit hard, because she can, but she's certainly going to be the higher activity striker of the two of them. And I think not that long ago, I would have taken her to win this fight, Marina. I was a big believer in her skills, but I've seen her struggle now with stronger girls in Virna Jandiroba, in Amanda Lemos. And I know the styles of them are completely different, and the style of Jessica, it's really three totally different styles. But I think that physicality factor, I can't speak tonight, is something that Marina has a bit of a hard time with, because she's a little lower on the strength scale compared to some of these girls. And if Andrade does anything at all, it's be physical as hell. My concern in taking Andrade is that maybe we just find out here that the technique is in two very different places, and that Marina's is actually well ahead. So I don't know. I'm torn. Like, a clean technical win for Marina would not shock me, but I'm going to say that Jessica lands big more than once, does enough to change the fight and sway at least a couple of these judges. And I am going to go with a split decision for Jessica Andrade.
Omar.
Yeah, I don't hate that, man. I do see a lot of trying to duck under a lot of Marina's long range shots to try to come over the top with some kind of hooks. If there's one thing about Andrade, man, is if she doesn't get finished, she's definitely liable to keep coming forward the entire fight. She doesn't really do a lot of backing up unless she's like obviously hurt or on the verge of getting finished. Rodriguez, I think, likes to counter a little too much for her own good sometimes. I think she waits a little bit too much to her detriment. And I think Andrade might play into that just a little bit. I think she will want Marina to wait for her. I think she can probably time some things here and there just based off of the anticipation of what Rodriguez is looking for. I think Andrade has the tools to win this fight. I think especially if she plays it right. So I'm going to go with Andrade here. I do think she can win this fight. I don't think it will be a split decision. I think it will be pretty clear, and so I'll go with a unanimous decision for Andrade.
Oh man. I'm going to go the other way than you guys on this one. I think this is going to be... What's that?
You were very Irish about your other way there.
I'm going to go the other way.
Yes.
I'm going to say that Rodriguez gets a huge win over the former champ here because I just love Marina Rodriguez's stand-up, and I think she's going to outshine Andrade in that department. Obviously, Andrade is a fire hydrant of a fighter, so Rodriguez really has to do her best to avoid the takedown and avoid getting bodied by Andrade. But give me Rodriguez by a UD via her striking prowess. Okay, let's go up to Jalin Turner taking on Renato Moicano. Two fan favorites here, especially Moicano at 155 pounds. Turner 14-7 now as a pro. Moicano 18-5 as a pro. Omar, start us off. Give us your thoughts and ultimately your pick.
This is a hard fight for me to pick, man. Jalin Turner, I've been high on Jalin Turner for a long time. Moicano has had some ups and had some downs, and we are in the upside of the Moicano story right now. He has looked fantastic. He has had not only his fighting performances have looked fantastic, but his on the mic performances have also been really fantastic. It's been a fun ride right now. Only lost to Rafael dos Anjos in most recent memory. So like it's, he's in a good space right now. But Jalin Turner, man, is like is a rough out. I know he's got his couple recent losses against Mateusz Garbrandt and Dan Hooker. Both were actually really close fights. I don't even remember. I don't think I thought that he lost that Garbrandt fight. I can't remember now. But these were very close fights. I don't think it said anything negative about his talent or his ability. If anything, it shows, I think, that he belongs to be exactly where he is in that division. And this fight really could go either way, man. Both of these guys have been very, very good lately. I'm going to stick with Jalin Turner, man. I've been on that train for a while. I think that train is going to pay off sooner rather than later. I think this is going to be a hard-fought fight. I don't think either one of these guys are going to get injured, but I do think it's going to be a brawl. It's hard for me not to think the size of Jalin Turner, and what I'm going to assume is a good, significant reach from Jalin Turner wouldn't be a factor. So I'm going to stick with Turner here. I think it'll be a decision win.
Mark, odds. I need to know these odds.
Fairly wide. Jalin Turner minus 245.
Whoa.
Renato Moicano plus 195. 4 inches of height and 3.5 inches of reach for Jalin Turner. As usual, the longer fighter. And I do think logic says to take Jalin Turner to win this fight. He is bigger, he is longer, he's quicker, he's more powerful. That's all in his corner. He's also never been submitted. He's not easy to take down. He's not easy to hold down. But all that being said, I am going to fucking take Money Moicano, and I'll eat it if I'm wrong. It's for a couple reasons. Reason one is that I keep thinking about that Garbrandt fight where he did take Jalin Turner down more than once, and he controlled him in moments. Yes, Turner was getting up, and it was a close fight, but Garbrandt was able to take him down enough to eke out the W. Seeing that, and seeing the way that Moicano just took down Drew Dober with relative ease, makes me think he can get Jalin Turner down. And once on the mat, Moicano, I think, is much more dangerous than Garbrandt. He is a killer down there. You make one wrong move, he'll snatch something up quick. Garbrandt is less about snatching that sub. And reason two is just that Moicano's a friggin' dog. And even if he's losing this fight, I don't see him going away. I could even see him down 2 rounds and pull something out in the third. So I don't know. It could be my fandom here. But I've also never been completely sold on Jalin Turner. And I don't know exactly why that is. I don't little things like the way he let Dan Hooker back into that fight. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold. I'm gonna pick a back and forth scrap, and I'm gonna say it is a sub for Moicano in round 3.
I love that whole take. And I totally agree. So I'm not going to say things differently. I would only be saying them worse. So yeah, I'll take Moicano, round 3, club and sub or something like that. And I cannot wait. And I want this so badly. I just need another viral Moicano on the mic moment. So there you have it. Let's see. What is next? Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. Don't they say Lopes sometimes?
In his debut, it was Lopes. Since then, they've all been saying Lopes.
Whatever.
So I don't know if they thought it was Lopes because he's Brazilian and it ended with the S, and then he was like, no, it's Lopes. But it seems to be Lopes now.
It's like, hey, you could be whatever you want to be. Okay, excuse me. Pardon me, Diego Lopes. Sodiq Yusuff, the 13-3 pro out of Nigeria, and Diego Lopes, the 23-6 pro out of Brazil. Omar, start us off this time.
This is a hell of a fight, man. I'm super excited for this one as well. I am super high on Diego Lopes. Even in his introductory fight here in the UFC, outside of his Contender Series fight that he didn't win, his fight against Movsar Evloev was an absolute barn burner, man. Did not win that fight, but he came in that fight, from what I remember, was on short notice and absolutely put on a fantastic performance against that man. And then subsequently went on to win 2 fights afterwards, both finishes. His last one being against Pat Sabatini, who runs a little bit of a name, even as newer as he is as well. I think he's really fucking good, man. I think his performances have been absolutely amazing in his last 2 fights. And Sodiq Yusuff is also a really tough out. He's definitely a difficult fighter to come up against. Edson Barboza had his difficulties in the fight that he won against him. But it's really difficult for me to really pick against Diego Lopes right now, man. I'm firmly on that train. I don't plan on getting off. I'm going to go Diego Lopes here with a first round submission.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild.
Mark, do your thing.
So maybe another one where let me give you the odds first. Diego Lopes is -140. Sodiq Yusuff is +115. Measurables 2 inches of height and 1.5 inches of reach for Diego Lopes. And yeah, I am surprised that Sodiq Yusuff is not the favorite in this fight. He is the far more proven fighter at this point, the longer track record. He's never been submitted in his whole career, which is generally Diego's avenue to victory in most of these fights. So I would have thought that he was the favorite, but and maybe he was. Maybe it shifted. Maybe money was coming in on Diego. Let's see. Now I'm curious, and I do still have it open, so let's fucking see. No, Diego actually opened at -180, so money has come in the other way. Wow. So yeah, I thought I was going to be making an underdog pick here, but I am not. I'm just rolling with the favorite because I am also on Diego Lopes. This is another one that's just a total fucking toss up, but the reason I'm on Lopes is because I think he is going to walk forward and bring pressure, and Sodiq does not do nearly as well in fights where he's forced to be on his back foot. On top of that, Diego is just proving to be a really strong dude in a lot of spots where it looks like he may not have the leverage, and the next thing you know, he's in an advantageous position. His stand-up is showing to be evolving and be dangerous to go with his grappling. So I think he's just a guy who is really peaking at the exact right time, and I could see this being a breakthrough fight for him. And I think that pressure is going to be the key. So I will say Diego Lopes round 2 submission.
Dude, I'm on the Diego Lopes fucking train right now. The dude is just a buzzsaw. Don't exactly sleep on Sodiq Yusuff, man. I mean, in his last fight against Barboza, he was fucking Edson Barboza up in that first round.
Yeah.
The dude has serious power. That being said, I gotta roll with my guy Diego Lopes. Excuse me. I keep wanting to say Lopes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he hands Sodiq Yusuff his second knockout or TKO loss. I'm gonna say it's gonna happen in the first round. There you go. Winner via buzzsawness.
Very nice.
Yeah, man. Okay. Man, this card is so huge. They did a great job. They did.
They really did. As we're going through it right now, it's just like, oh my God.
Like, we're still not even close to the top of this card. No. Okay, here we go. Super fun fight. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. It finally happened. And Kayla Harrison has wound up in the UFC. And she's starting her UFC journey off by taking on none other than the former UFC bantamweight champion, the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm, whose record stands at 15-6 coming into this weekend. Kayla Harrison, of course, 16-1. That only one loss being, of course, to Larissa Pacheco. But Harrison, a multiple-time PFL winner and a multi-millionaire for those efforts at this point. And now she's taking on a very interesting and tough test in Holly Holm. Holm, of course, going to be probably the smaller fighter in there because Harrison has fought at 45. Probably could fight at 55.
Yeah.
So there you go. Mark, keep going, keep talking, and give us your take and you're picking the odds.
All right, so Kayla's a pretty significant favorite despite the fact that she's trying to get down to bantamweight here. She is minus 450. Holly Holm is plus 340. The height is the same, 3 inches of reach on the side of Holly, so she's actually the longer of the two despite Kayla being bigger. And yeah, this is a wild one, mainly because of Kayla coming to the UFC out of the blue, and then even more so the fact that she is trying to make 135. And a lot of what this fight comes down to is just going to hinge on the weight and on seeing what Kayla looks like on Friday. Does she make the weight? Does she look drawn out? Does she look like she's dying? Does she look like she is ready to go? You know, all of that. It's going to be a lot about evaluating Kayla Harrison when she hits this scale. But if she is not dead, I really do think that she's the pick. It's only 3 rounds, so she can push early if she has, you know, if her cardio is mostly there, she can push early considering she's used to going 5. Yes, Holly knows how to implement that style of keeping space and playing the outside and keeping a fight standing, but I don't think she can do that against Kayla. I mean, the last time Holly Holm won a fight behind her striking was in 2020. Since then, she's lost to Ketlen Vieira. She chose to wrestle against Yana Santos, so she didn't have to deal with the striking. And then she lost to Mayra Bueno Silva. So it's been a minute since she has had like a Holly Holm fight, if you want to call it that. And through it all, we know Holly loves to clinch. So to fight a full fight on the outside, keeping Kayla off her, seems like a big ask. And it almost seems like something she's not naturally going to want to be doing. So I think one way or another, Kayla can push her way inside. And I think she'll take Holly down more than once in this fight and get a clear W. Holly's grappling has improved a lot, so I don't think she gets finished, but I do think it's a UD for Kayla Harrison.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I definitely think the biggest question I have is how easily does she get down? How easily does, I guess I should say, Kayla Harrison get Holly Holm down? Because, you know, obviously one of the biggest comparisons you're probably going to find in this fight specifically is the fight between her and Ronda Rousey, just based off of the judo credentials that Kayla Harrison brings in and the ones that Ronda Rousey had brought in back then as well. Obviously, I think it goes without saying that Kayla Harrison is a much different fighter than Ronda Rousey, even with the judo in place. I think she's obviously a lot more complete of a fighter, and that's not to say she is a complete fighter. She is just more complete of a fighter. Significantly better hands, a much more apt understanding of striking and head movement and distance management. And I just feel like her entries to getting inside won't be as sloppy as the Ronda Rouseys were in that time. A lot of zombieing, moving forward, hands out, kind of praying you're going to grab onto somebody. I just don't think Kayla Harrison is going to approach it that way. I think she is going to have setups. I think she is going to use her striking to get Holly to kind of and use Holly's movements to her disadvantage by potentially cutting off the ring, getting her to back up against the cage, and then just going for double legs and whatever else she needs to do to take her down. So, like Mark said, I can't see Holly Holm keeping her off of the ground for 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison here. I don't think she does sub her, but I do think that she gets on top of her pretty handedly, especially once we get into the second round, if not longer. So I'm going to go with the decision for Kayla Harrison.
It's just hard. It's going to be hard to ignore the size of Kayla Harrison. I mean, Holly has always had very good movement, great movement. But yeah, I agree. I just think, MMA rounds are long, and Kayla Harrison is going to have plenty of opportunities to hunt Holly down and just kind of stalk her. So yeah, I have to go with Kayla Harrison by decision here. I feel I don't think she's going to finish her. Holly is going to have bursts of energy towards the beginning of the fight to try to get back to her feet if and when she does get taken down. I would be pleasantly surprised if Holly Holm does a phenomenal job of avoiding takedowns, stuffing takedowns, etc. But I just feel that the smart pick is with Kayla Harrison for the skill, stylistic difference, and size differential. I think both being in favor of Kayla Harrison.
I will say quickly, Saturday, a win for Kayla Harrison on Saturday could be the start of a return to MMA for one Amanda Nunes. I'm going to throw it out there because if Kayla wins and then Kayla fights for a title and wins it, I would be 0% shocked to see Amanda Nunes be like, I'm back, I'm fighting Kayla.
It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Yep. Some steps to go, but just throwing it out.
That's true. Moving on. Here we go. In the featherweight division, Calvin Kattar taking on Aljamain Sterling, the former bantamweight champion. Calvin Kattar 23-7. Aljamain Sterling overall as a pro 23-4. Excellent matchmaking here, and a great test for Aljo in his first venture up at a higher weight class at featherweight. Omar, started off. Give us your take and your thoughts on this fight.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm a little terrified for Aljo in this fight. I guess I haven't seen them next to each other yet. I haven't really gotten to size up the situation in that sense. But like in my head, Calvin Kattar feel like is big compared to Aljamain Sterling, and I don't like this matchup at all for him. I don't see Aljamain manhandling Calvin Kattar on the ground. I don't see Aljamain Sterling out striking Calvin Kattar. Like, and maybe I'm wrong, dude. I mean, the first fight at this point at 145, there's a lot of unanswered questions. We've always seen him outsize guys for the most part at 135. I don't think he's going to have the ability to do that. At the same time, he'll probably be the biggest we've ever seen him. And he might also be the strongest we've ever seen him. So I don't really know what to expect. But like, from what I can see, it looks horrible. Like, I'm not thrilled about it. I hope the best for Aljamain Sterling. I just can't pick this one for him, man. I love him. I would normally pick him, I think, in most other circumstances, but this just doesn't seem to be it for me. I'm going to go with Calvin Kattar here. I give Aljamain Sterling the respect as far as being a champ and probably going the 3 rounds, but I don't see him winning here, man. I go with Kattar here by decision.
Dude, what a great fucking fight is this. Great fight. New York versus Boston. So. New York versus Boston. Let's go. You know who I'm rooting for in this one. But I'm going to go with New York on this one. As much as I am afraid of Calvin Kattar's doggedness and his striking acumen, I'm going to go with Sterling. I think he's a winner, and he's going to find the takedown. And I think he's going to get the win. I think he's going to get the win here, either by submission or unanimous decision with a lot of wrestling. I'm going to make a little bit of a more conservative pick, and I'm going to say he's going to get a UD with a lot of wrestling. Because Aljo's wrestling is so legit. So legit. So let's go for it. Kattar's terrifying,
though. Okay. So, yeah, odds-wise, I thought this one was going to be like a pick'em, and Aljo's minus 170. Kattar's plus 140. So they're giving a little bit of love to Aljo. Oh. I'm surprised it's that wide. 4 inches of height for Calvin Kattar. Only 1 inch of reach, but definitely the larger of the two. Yeah, this is, I mean, as Omar said, this is no easy matchup for Aljamain Sterling because Calvin Kattar has like borderline renowned takedown defense. And on the feet, you would think he can probably box Aljo's ears off. So it's a tricky welcome to 145 for Aljamain Sterling against, it's not even like Calvin Kattar doesn't have a huge name. So like it's one of those fights where it's like you're not getting the huge name and you also are getting a really hard matchup. So yeah, Aljo's gonna have to fight a smart fight. He's gonna have to really play it safe in order to have success standing and to find entries and find ways to get into the grappling. But I'm gonna say he can do it. I went back and forth on this. What sold me is that Calvin Kattar hasn't really fought anyone who's looking to grapple in like 6 years. And the last one was Renato Moicano, who beat him. Now, obviously, Moicano's a lot bigger than Aljo, but my point is, since that time, there's no one who even really looked for it. There's really not a ton of grapplers at featherweight. Like, there's not any Aljamain Sterlings really hanging around. Now, Evloev kind of just came up, but there's really not many guys looking to grapple in this division. And I think Aljo is going to show that he's a little something different. I think we know full well how smart of a game plan he's capable of coming into fights with. I think he can stay way outside, use the kicks, only close when he wants to, find chances to move to the back or to get a trip or put himself in an advantageous position. Not to mention it's Calvin Kattar's first fight back in 18 months after some pretty awful injuries. So yeah, I don't think it'll be easy, but I think control wins the day, and I'm going to say Aljo gets it. UD.
Dude, it's so hard for me to think that the size of Calvin Kattar is not going to play a different, and not even like he's bigger, but he's longer. And Aljamain's always been, I feel like, the taller guy against all these like tiny dudes that he fights. Yep. And the one time he fights a guy who's even the small, like maybe 2 inches on him, and Sean O'Malley, he gets straight up like put out. Right?
You're not wrong.
It's just hard for me to think that a guy in Calvin Kattar who is like, at least feels like he's twice the size of Sean O'Malley, is not going to smash Aljamain. It just, man, on paper, it just looks so bad.
I'm actually looking that up right now because I like that kind of visual comparison. So Calvin Kattar is 5'11", Sean O'Malley, which is, I was going to say, I already know that. That's what Sean O'Malley is, so that's the same.
Yeah, and then just add meat to that kid.
Let's see the reach.
I mean, that's terrifying.
Kattar's reach is 72. I don't know Sean's
6 feet reach.
O'Malley, I think, is 74.
It's 72. Wow, they're literally the same human, except with 10 more pounds. Interesting.
Okay. Let's move on because we actually have 37 more fights to go through. Okay. At 205 pounds, Jiri Prochazka takes on Aleksander Rakic. Rakic back in the octagon. Prochazka, obviously the former light heavyweight champ, 29-4 as a pro out of the Czech Republic.
Damn.
Rakic making his return finally to the cage, 14-3 as a pro, fighting out of Serbia. What was his last fight?
The Jan fight.
The Jan fight back in 2022. Yeah. Anyhow, Omar, keep talking and start us off. Give us your take for this fight.
Yeah, I didn't realize it had been that long. Almost 2 years at this point. The better part of 2 years, frankly, at this point. Yeah, I mean, hopefully his leg is back in place and, we're not having to deal with any more poppity pops from there. Jiri Prochazka, though, man, obviously he had his loss to Alex Pereira, but like, I mean, I feel like at this point, losing to Alex Pereira is going to be a thing. I don't really think we can take too much from that as far as the skill of Jiri Prochazka. He's still a beast, still very dangerous. Striking is still something to be concerned about. His ground game is also still pretty good. It's just that Alex Pereira has an axe for a leg and like 2 leg kicks from that dude, and people are like, I can't walk anymore. So I don't think we're going to have that issue with Aleksander Rakic. As good as he is, I just don't think he presents those same types of threats. I think he's definitely a beatable opponent for Prochazka. And I just don't know what that leg looks like, man. I don't know what his movement looks like. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get back in there unless he felt confident in using it and things like that. But it's, I think when it comes to mental fortitude for me in my head, I just think Prochazka takes that cake as well. So I'm going to go Prochazka here. I believe in him just a little bit more, even with the recent loss. And I'm going to say he puts out Rakic in the second round. TKO.
Okay, Mark.
All right, so they went ahead and made Jiri Prochazka the underdog. He is even money, plus 100. Aleksander Rakic is minus 120. So it's more or less a pick 'em, but Jiri is the underdog. And for what it's worth, Rakic opened at minus 170. So it has come way down with money coming in on Jiri. He was plus 140 originally. So that's a little bit wild to me, considering Rakic hasn't fought in 2 years. He has one fight in the last 3 years. He has 2 fights in the last 4 years. Like, the dude is highly inactive. And I'm not saying it's his fault necessarily. He's had some injuries. But it's just, it's really hard for me to trust him that much against Jiri fucking Prochazka. Like, this dude was just recently the champion, and he had round one against Alex Pereira before getting caught. Rakic, sorry, I skipped the measurables. Rakic is 1 inch taller. Jiri has 2 inches of reach. So yeah, going back to the pick, I don't know. I don't see it. Like, I guess I get it on paper about Rakic in that he'll rip the legs, and Jiri is kind of vulnerable to get hurt by leg kicks. Rakic can wrestle. He'll lean on his defense where he kind of plays it safe. He doesn't get hit that much. He'll steal 2 of these rounds. I guess I get it. But I think Jiri's going to come out like a man fucking possessed coming off the Alex Pereira loss. And I think the pressure is going to be high. I think the pace is going to be high. I think they're going to be a lot for Rakic to deal with, having just walked back into a cage for the first time in a couple of years, and what that ring rust can be like and the adrenaline dump can be like, and all of it at UFC fucking 300. And on top of that, I've always felt the way to beat Rakic is with pressure. He loves to play that point fighting game, and I don't think Jiri's going to allow that. Combined with the awkwardness of Jiri, it's hard to point fight Jiri. You know what I mean? It's not something you can really expertly prepare for. So I'm gonna go with it, especially if it takes Rakic a round or so to get himself going. So yeah, I will take Jiri. I guess I'm not going to say finish. I will go Jiri to win a UD.
Jiri by UD. I mean, Rakic is a tough son of a gun. He's only ever been finished twice, been knocked out once, been subbed once rather. And those haven't been for a long, long time. Let's see. And has he been finished in the UFC? Yes, he's been knocked out in the UFC.
Who has?
That was the Jan fight.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say he didn't get
leg injury.
It was because of the injury. Yeah.
I mean, Rakic has great size as well for 205. But dude, I have to go with the talent and striking of Jiri Prochazka. Personally, I've always been pretty underwhelmed by Rakic in terms of his skill set. I think he's one of the more boring guys in the roster overall.
Yep. I don't disagree.
And Jiri Prochazka is the exact opposite. The guy is a car crash in human form.
Yeah.
So give me Prochazka. Give it to me. I want Prochazka to hand him his first knockout loss. It sounds like I have something personal against Aleksander Rakic. I don't. But there you have it. Give me knockout in round 3 for Jiri Prochazka. Okay, moving up to the next fight on the main card now. Opening the main card in the middleweight division, Bo Nickal taking on Cody Brundage. Bo Nickal now 5-0 as a professional mixed martial artist, having quite the pedigree in the American wrestling world. Taking on Cody Brundage, 10-5 as a pro. Cody Brundage, 29 years old, out of Englewood, Colorado. Other things for Brundage, 5 wins by knockout. He's 4-4 in the UFC. Mark, give us the very wide odds for this fight and your pick.
Would you care to guess? Have you already seen them?
No. It's like, is it minus 800 for
if you multiply it by 3, then yeah. Minus 2,500 for Bo Nickal.
Oh my God.
Jesus
plus
Christ.
plus 1,100 for Cody. So you are getting 11-1 if you feel like sprinkling on Cody. 1 inch of height and 4 inches of reach for Bo. We know what this is. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time discussing this one, I don't think. There is nothing that Cody Brundage has shown in any facet of the game to suggest that he can beat Bo Nickal, in my opinion. I mean, he does love jumping guillotine, so maybe there's some miracle moment where he jumps it and actually works, even though it never really does when he does it in other fights. But I don't think he's guillotining Bo Nickal. I think that Bo is more or less going to do whatever he wants in this fight, striking when he wants, wrestling when he wants, and in the end, I think Brundage gets tapped. I will go with Bo Nickal round 2 sub.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a betting guy. Brundage is plus 1,200.
1,100.
Okay, I see. On
So you would have to.
12.
Oh, some sites he probably is 12. Sure.
So if I put $100 down and he wins, I'd win $1,000 basically.
You're doing 1,200.
1,200.
Right. Minus, yeah.
No, not
minus
minus
the 100.
No, you would.
Oh, no?
Win the 1,200. Yeah.
You would get 1,200 as your winnings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if I only
And keep your 100 bet.
Okay.
Yeah. You would be $1,200 richer than you were at the start of the day.
So if I only put $10 down, I would win 120.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, might be worth it.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fucking crazy number, but it ain't worth it.
That's betting for you.
Unless you want to bet on Bo Nickal like taking a bad step and popping his knee, then I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't think it's happening any other way.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is, right? There's obviously a chance that Cody Brundage could win this fight, but he's not going to win by anything that anybody's going to like be able to analyze. Like Cody Brundage could definitely do something crazy, something stupid could definitely happen. Bo Nickal could definitely get caught with something, but I mean, dude, what we have to work with, man, there's nothing that says that Cody Brundage is going to get that done. So I'm also going to go Bo Nickal here. I think it's going to be more of a sunning, if you will. And I think there'll be some ground and pound to get this done. So I'm going to go with round 1 TKO.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go with Bo Nickal, man. You have to. You just have to.
You have to until you can't no more.
Too much wrestling. Yeah. Yeah. Until he gets a heat check, and then you're really going to have to evaluate him fight for fight. But
yeah,
I don't think that Brundage has the skill set anyway to give him much of a challenge here. So, yeah, Bo Nickal by knockout or submission, maybe TKO via ground and pound. I'll say round 2 for Bo Nickal here.
Oh, now we're getting into some meat and potatoes.
We sure are.
Oh, now this whole card's meat and potatoes.
Yeah, but now
Here
it's
we
like
go.
fucking
In the
like dry aged beef.
It's a wagyu shit here.
True, man.
Yes.
Final 4 fights here on the main card, UFC 300. Let's see. We have in the lightweight division. Oh, by the way, it's going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. What if it was going down at the Apex? How crazy would that be?
Can't even joke like that, bro, anymore.
I know, right? Former UFC lightweight champ Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Arman Tsarukyan. So, Charles Oliveira really needing no introductions. He is the 34-year-old out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, 34-9 as a pro with 1 no contest. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall with a 74-inch reach. Overall, as a pro, his record stands at 34-9. Like I said, with 1 no contest. Under the UFC, 22-9, and that 1 no contest, of course. Most recently, he ground and pounded Beneil Dariush to a TKO victory. That went down in the very first round. And that went down back in June. And now he steps back into the cage against the rising young talent in Arman Tsarukyan, 27 years old. Let's see. He is originally from, is it Armenia?
Yes.
Okay. On Tapology, it says he's fighting out of Russia, though. He stands 5 feet 7 inches tall. His reach is 72.5 inches. Under the UFC, he is 8-2. He's 21-3 overall. 9 of his wins have come by knockout. Another 5 by submission. and he's on a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Most recently, also defeating Beneil Dariush, also by TKO, also in the first round. Now these two square off against each other. Omar started off. Give us your take and your pick for Oliveira versus Tsarukyan.
This is one where I really want to know what the odds are for this one, because as much as we love Charles Oliveira and as much as I'm picking Charles Oliveira to win this fight, this is a crazy ass fight. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan is a monster.
You want to know him before you keep going?
I would imagine Charles got to be the favorite here, man. He's got to be like.
It's got to be Charles.
It's
got to
not
be Charles.
even remotely Charles.
Really?
Disrespect.
Arman is minus 225.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Charles is plus 180.
That is disrespectful.
So how much money are you putting on Charles there, dog?
There's some out there from a few weeks ago.
The answer is all of it.
Some more that comes down soon.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I like Charles, man. I like Charles here. I think he's on a good level here. He's dangerous everywhere. His Muay Thai is disgusting. His ground game is. There needs to be no explanation for his ground game. He is ground game. I think if anything, it'll be a competitive fight. But I just see Oliveira just getting the knockdown and then getting a tap after that, man. I'm going to go with Oliveira here. I think he's going to do it. I'll go with 3rd round submission. But Tsarukyan's a monster, man. He is not to be fucked with.
Yeah, man. Mark, do it. Tell us why.
So you heard the odds. The measurables are 3 inches of height and 1.5 inches of reach, both in the corner of Charles. And yeah, man, we have been down this road before. Everyone continually wants to doubt my boy Charles, and it's happening again here. With that said, I do get it. I think Arman is fantastic. He's great everywhere. He blends everything so well. He will be willing to follow Charles to the floor if Charles drops, which we've seen as a big X factor for Islam against Charles. And Arman can probably do similar things. But as good as Arman is and as impressed as I've been with him at different times, I look at some past fights. The Garbrandt fight was 50-50. Garbrandt won a ton of grappling moments in that fight. Joaquim Silva, in the middle of an ass whooping, clipped Arman Tsarukyan bad. As good as he is, I just think there's levels and that he is a notch below the one Charles is on. And we've seen it for other dudes at lightweight. Like, what have we learned recently? Fiziev turned back by Gaethje. Benoit turned back by Poirier. I mean, hell, Garbrandt just had a harder time with RDA than he even had with Arman. So I don't know. I'm just not. I'll believe it when I see it. And I think Arman is getting dropped. I think if Joaquim Silva can clip him like that, then Charles absolutely can. Where it goes from there in terms of if it's a straight KO or a club and sub, I don't know. But for the sake of the pick, I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira, round 2 TKO. I think it's a left hook in an exchange. Maybe even not the first time he hurts Arman in this fight. And I think he puts him out.
Wow. So Oliveira by knockout or TKO is the pick. In what round did you say?
Dos.
Second round. This is a great fight. And I do think that there is some disrespect towards Oliveira with how far apart these odds are. I think this could or should have been a pick'em fight, even though I admittedly am not like a betting man. But yeah, I think Tsarukyan is a fantastic matchup to go up against Oliveira. Tsarukyan has a great ground game. He's great everywhere, man. He really is the future of the division. That being said, I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with Oliveira here. I'm a little disappointed that he's the underdog. I thought he would have been the favorite. But I think he's going to get it done. I do agree with both of you guys. I'll say he gets it done by club and sub in round 3 for Oliveira. I think it's going to be a war.
Cool.
And I think it ought to be. It really ought to be. It feels like it ought to be. Tough one, though. To be quite honest with you, like I said, I think it could have been a pick'em odds-wise. So I'm not super duper confident in my pick. I'm not like, Oliveira's got it in the bag because Tsarukyan is so good.
He is so good.
But yeah, let's go. We're unanimous on Charles.
Love it.
Okay, 3 more here. And now in the lightweight division, once again, Justin, the highlight Gaethje, takes on Max Blessed Holloway. Wow. And this is for the UFC BMF title, which seems to only be a lightweight title so far. Unless Max wins it and then defends it at featherweight. I don't know. Who knows how it's going to work. I think they're just kind of making it up as they go along with this
100%.
whole BMF thing.
100%.
But either way, both of these guys are deserving of this title, but they only have one belt right now. So we have Justin Gaethje, 25-4 as a pro. Max Holloway, 25-7 as a pro. Max Holloway, of course, the former UFC featherweight world champ, one of the greatest, if not the greatest featherweight of all time, arguably. Obviously, there's a couple other guys in consideration for that title. Justin Gaethje, the former UFC interim lightweight world champ. So here we go. Mark, start it off this time. Give us the odds and your take. Each pick.
So Gaethje's the favorite. He's minus 175. Max is the dog at plus 140. It actually was significantly wider. Some money's been coming in on Max that shrunk this line. The height is the same. There is a 1-inch reach advantage for Gaethje. And I have zero interest in picking this fight. I don't know how to do it. I've changed my mind 50 times. Every time I change it, I hold on to a point that convinces me I'm sure that I'm on the right guy now. And then 5 minutes later, I come up with a new point and I change it again. So, yeah, it's fucking hard. Justin Gaethje is arguably in the best form of his entire career right now. He's fighting smarter. He's making in-fight adjustments better than he ever has. Like, just look at these last 2 fights with Fiziev and Gaethje, how he handled them. He is the career lightweight, obviously, going into this against a career featherweight. He carries the bigger power. He's the bigger finisher. Of course, he's going to rip Max's skinny little legs. There is a lot in the corner of Justin Gaethje, and it's really easy to look at it and say, like, yeah, of course Justin Gaethje is going to take this fight. And that's where I was at initially, if I'm being honest. But the more I broke it down, there's kind of a lot on Max's side also. He's faster. I think he's the better boxer. His chin is made of absolute iron. I lean more toward trusting him in the later rounds if this gets that far. Justin has only been to round 5 once, and it was against Tony, who he was drubbing, so it's not like his cardio was necessarily tested there. Max has been there 9 times, and in 8 of his last 9 fights, so he basically lives in rounds 4 and 5. And maybe most importantly, Max has truly sized up for this fight. This ain't the Poirier fight, where he came up as a featherweight to fight Dustin Poirier, and the power was really the differentiator in that fight. Everything else was pretty close. It's just that Dustin was landing with more impact. He has truly sized up now and become a lightweight for this fight. And not to mention, I've already kind of felt like he's been upping his power on his shots a bit recently. I actually remember making this point back when he fought Zombie. It's noticeable. He seems to be hitting harder. So now with the weight, it may even be harder than that. At the same time, he got hit a lot in that Zombie fight, which bothers me. And that is far from the recipe for winning against Justin Gaethje. But we've seen guys stand up to Gaethje's power. Like Chandler stood up to it. Fiziev stood up to it. Dustin has, obviously, a head kick is its own deal. But aside from that, in their fight and a half, Dustin has. And I don't see any reason we should assume that Max Holloway, who's never even been dropped, can't also stand up to it. So, long story short, with all of that said, that's why I find this fight impossible to pick, because I can convince myself of either guy. I think I could list 5 different adjustments they could each make right now that allows them to win this fight. You know, across 10 fights, I think it's 5-5. It's one of those. But I'm going to go with freaking Max Holloway. I think he is going to be the one finishing exchanges, and it's going to make the difference. Like, I can see Justin stepping in for a 1-2 or a punch calf kick combo, and Max is responding with up to 3 and 4, and it's 3 and 4 that land as they're separating, and Justin is already done with his combo. And I could just see him scoring a little bit more that way. And I also could really see him take rounds 4 and 5, which means he would only need one of the earlier rounds, because I don't think Justin's going to stop him. So Give me Max Holloway to win a UD.
Wow. Okay, Omar.
Yeah. I don't want to pick this fight. This fight makes me sad. Makes me sad on all fronts. I just like Mark, this fight can go a lot of different ways. I think for me, what it really came down to was the power of Justin Gaethje, and it's not to say that Max Holloway doesn't have that same type of, can't crack, obviously, but Justin Gaethje doesn't really have soft shots for the most part, and even when he puts volume together, sometimes he has to chill out in that fight because he puts so much behind his shots. And Max Holloway doesn't really have that problem. He paces himself relatively well. He hits hard, obviously, but he's not putting everything behind those shots. Justin Gaethje has a way of doing that while throwing combinations, while still in motion, while still moving and defending, while slipping shots or rolling under. Like he's very, very good, man. Very good at cutting angles while still throwing power. And like Mark said, Max gets hit. And I'm not saying Max goes down. I'm not even saying Max gets knocked down in that fight. But I just feel like he gets tagged a lot more. And I just feel like the more the fight goes on, and if he keeps getting tagged the way I think he does, I think the fight's just going to get more difficult for him to come back from. So it really could go either way. I'm really not counting Max Holloway out of anything because you can't do that. But for the sake of picking a fight, I'm just going to go with Justin Gaethje by decision.
Yeah, tough one. And there's compelling points for Holloway, but I too am going to give the edge to Gaethje for, I think, what will still be a power differential in favor of the highlight. Yeah, I think he retains his BMF belt here. And I'll take Gaethje by UD with a good amount of damage landed against Holloway. And two more. Co-main event, UFC 300 going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada this Saturday night. In the co-main, we have the Women's Strawweight Championship on the line. Weili Zhang defending her title against Xiaonan. Here we go. Because it's getting late, I'm not going to mash these guys up. Mark, start it off. Give us the odds and your take.
All right, Weili is a big favorite. She might be. Is she the biggest favorite on this whole card, not named Bo Nickal? This would be a lot of scrolling for me to see this. No, you know what? I'm almost there already. Kayla was 450. Now I forget what Weili was. What was Weili? She is.
Is it really that bad?
She's the biggest favorite besides Bo Nickal. Weili is minus 480. Xiaonan is plus 360. 1 inch of height for Yan. The reach is the same. And I kind of get it because I would be truly surprised if Weili doesn't win this fight.
Yeah.
She has made us feel like she's a special fighter on more than one occasion.
She is.
As good as Yan Xiaonan is, I can't say I have felt that from her. Now, on the feet, she's looked nasty. And if it plays out on the feet, it could be a crazy fight because we know Weili can be touched on the feet. We've seen it before. I'm not saying finish necessarily, but she'll eat some shots. The thing is, I don't think it does. I think Weili is going to be wrestling early and often in this fight. And as much as we've seen Yan improve on the ground, like think of the Dern fight where she defended so well, I don't think we've seen her necessarily improve her takedown defense. So I think it's going to end up on the mat. And once down there, Weili is not a Dern at all. She is not going to be setting up submissions and progressing and allowing Yan to try to stay one step ahead. She is going to be fucking wailing on Xiaonan with ground and pound. And I think that's the difference. So between the wrestling and the ground and pound, give me Weili to win by round 3 TKO.
Omar.
Yeah, I think the strength is going to be one of the bigger factors for me between these two. Weili Zhang is a strong individual. And I think when we start getting down to the grappling and the clinching and things like that, I think it's going to be a significant factor against somebody like Yan. I don't think she's felt anybody who's going to be that strong in her career. And that's even including a Jessica Andrade. And I think I say that just because even Weili Zhang got the better in the strength department against Jessica Andrade when they fought. Granted, a lot of that probably had to do with the knees that she was planting inside of her stomach, but regardless, it just seemed like Weili Zhang was the stronger of the two women there, and Jessica Andrade is not generally anything but the stronger woman of the two. So I think Zhang has definitely leveled up, even in the times that we've seen her, in her recent fights against Amanda Lemos, against Carla Esparza. Like, every time we see her, she seems like she's gone up something else. Something else has gotten even better. And I think we're going to see that again in this fight. She's been super impressive since she's won the belt, and she's only gotten better since then. So it's hard to count her out. So I'm going to go with Zhang here. I do think she finishes this fight. I think her ground game and her pressure and her overall strength are going to be too overwhelming for Xiaonan. So I'm going to go with Zhang here by TKO round 3.
Yeah, you just got to go with Zhang here, man. She's just too much of a phenom. As good as Xiaonan is, the pick is Zhang. I like that pick too, Omar, and I'm going to second that. I'm going to say late TKO. I'll say round 4 TKO for Zhang Weili. And here we go, gentlemen. We have made it to the main event of UFC 300. Once again, going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, this Saturday night. And main eventing this historic night in the 205-pound division, Alex Pereira is defending his 205-pound title for the first time against the former light heavyweight champ, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. Pereira, 9-2 as a pro, obviously with a storied kickboxing background. Jamal Hill, also with a smaller record, only 12-1 for the Grand Rapids native, who is only 32 years old. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
This one's also really difficult to pick. I've always been on the Jamal Hill train. I think I picked against him once. But I've been on the Jamal Hill train for a very long time, kind of like I've been on the Jalen Turner train for a long time. But the Jamal Hill train has paid off quite well throughout the years. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult to pick against him. The reason why it's difficult for people to pick Jamal Hill is because his performances don't always look the most technically savvy. He looks kind of like a street fighter in a sense. It's not like the most pretty, I guess, if you want to call it something, but the man knows what the hell he's doing in there. He's very smart with his setups. He's very smart with his feints. He's very accurate. His pressure is really good when he puts it on. And his ability to follow up and kind of smell blood and go for the kill, I think, is exceptional. And not every fighter has that in the UFC. That being said, Pereira is not new to the game. And in fact, when it comes to that stand-up game, I think he's definitely one of the most dangerous guys in that division. The leg kicks, I think, are on a different level. The fact that he can put down a man with just a handful of leg kicks, I think, is a real problem. I think will definitely play a factor in this fight as well. It's coming up with a conclusion as to who's going to win this fight is just really, it's really, really hard. I think I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Pereira here. There's things like the ankle that hasn't really gotten touched on, that we don't know how that healed and how quickly he came back from that injury and things like that. And I don't think he gets run over, Jamal Hill, by any stretch of the imagination, but I just think Pereira is going to be able to get this one done. I don't even know if he knocks out Jamal Hill. It's very possible this could go 5 rounds and just be a war. A lot of things could happen here, dude. This is a mess. But I'm just going to go with Pereira by decision.
It's a great fight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go the other way. I think a lot more people are going to be taking Pereira here because he's just such a terrifying specimen of a human being. And I feel like Jamal Hill, am I crazy, or is it? I feel like Jamal Hill is slightly overlooked or underrated because the guy is.
I agree.
He's just such a winner. And
Yeah.
I think because of the presence of the Alex Pereiras out there, people kind of don't realize just how phenomenal Jamal Hill is as a fighter.
It might be the lack of flashiness in the way he fights, maybe the lack of athleticism compared to some other guys.
Yeah.
Could be the lack of physique compared to some other guys.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't really know what the deal is, but like he's a lot better than people really give him credit for.
Right. I mean, to that point, since like Contender Series, like he just has like seems like he's progressively putting on more weight, which is always like a little disconcerting. But then you're reminded that like especially like in fighting sports, like physique doesn't really mean all that much. It's not like this guy is freaking ripped, he's gonna win. It's like that's not how it works at all.
You tell Joaquin Buckley that, but I get your point.
Yeah. I imagine, Mark, that these odds are fairly close.
You're right this time. They are very close.
Okay.
So I imagine these are pick'ems.
Okay, let's hear the odds then.
Pereira minus 130, Jamal Hill plus 110. So borderline.
And I figured that Pereira would be the favorite. But I'm glad that they're as close as they are. That's what I was hoping for. And that being said, I'm going to go with my feel, with my gut on this one. It's a feel pick, and I'm going to say that Jamal Hill surprises a lot of people, and I think he knocks Alex Pereira out. I'm going to say this is going to happen in the third round, in the middle of the fight. I think he wears on Pereira a little bit. I think Jamal Hill is also deceptively big. I think he's a bigger guy than people realize as well. I mean, I remember when he fought Glover, like he was throwing head kicks. It looked like he was throwing body kicks. Like it was as though he was only having to lift his leg that high, because he's a big guy. It could happen the other way. Pereira could land that left hook, man, and put Hill on Queer Street. But that's my pick. I'm gonna say round 3 knockout for Jamal Hill. Mark, take us home. Daddy's got to go to bed.
So minus 130 plus 110, as I said. The height is the same. 1 inch of reach for Alex. There's another one where I've gone back and forth quite a few times since it was announced. I hate that we have this cloud hanging over the fight where we know Jamal wasn't supposed to return until summer, and yet here he is because UFC 300 needed a main event, and it seems like somehow he was suddenly fine and able to do it. So I'm a little worried about that. That aside, I don't think that Pereira is the ideal matchup for Jamal Hill. And really, it's just because of the same two things that we've said this before in this show, that Alex Pereira just does 2 things really well. Obviously, he does more than that, but the calf kick to the lead leg that you can't see coming and that immobilizes you, and a nuclear left hook. Like, those are the 2 things we always talk about. And I think they both work against Jamal Hill because I know Hill will fight southpaw and he'll switch back and forth, but in either scenario, I think they work simply because Jamal Hill loves to push forward. He loves to bring the fight. He says it all the time. He's in there to fight. He's not in there to point fight or try to win rounds. He's in there to put it on you, and he's going to walk you down, and he's going to try to put it on you. And I just think walking Pereira down, that calf kick is going to be there on either leg, and that left hook is going to have a lot of opportunities to land. And, that's exactly what Alex wants. Think about the way that he handled Jiri when Jiri was walking him down. Like some of his past fights, like Izzy won't do that. Izzy will play the game with him, which made him more of a challenge. Jiri was all forward, and he paid for it. And Jamal isn't as forward as Jiri, but he's forward. Now, can he just be moving forward and be landing cleanly? Like, yes, I even think he will be. I kind of think he is going to be winning more of the exchanges in this fight, which is why originally I was going to be picking him. But I just think at some point he's going to get caught. I don't know. I think the calf kicks will start to add up a little bit, especially if it's on that. I'm just so concerned about that fucking Achilles, if he's getting kicked on that same leg. And then, Pereira's power's big, man. One check left hook lands and Hill survives it, but then 4 minutes later another one lands. Like that might be it. So I'm going to go with Pereira. I'm going to say again that Hill might actually be winning this fight until he's not. until some things add up. But I will go with Alex Pereira, round 3 knockout.
And that does it, folks. Oh man. That's quite the card that we just picked up.
Quite the card.
Facts.
Well, boys,